Right, so hello everyone who is watching in on YouTube and listening in on Spotify. Usually we would have one guest here, but we are joined by two today. Two very special characters, so I'm sure we're in for a very fun-filled episode. The first man is the very first man who came on the Box Room podcast, which is Bobby Calloway. So Bobby, thanks for coming on again to co-host with me.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be here with a bunch of good, crazy people.
Yeah, you need to get that on a t-shirt.
Good. I,
Yeah.
I actually wanted to get a T-shirt made with something I came up with last year to describe myself: young, dumb, and full of cringe.
Brilliant, brilliant. And of course, we're joined as well by Liana Kerzner, all the way from Canada, is that at the moment? That's where you are?
Yeah, Canada. Yep.
And I said to Liana before we started, look at that background. My God.
Hmm.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah, if people can make it past the background, they understand how I think. So.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So, Liana, just before we get into it, what I do with all the guests that come on the Box Room podcast basically is just a little brief introduction of yourself, where you're from, and just a little bit about yourself and your background as well.
Oh God, that's what Bobby's here for. I'm terrible at summarizing this stuff. He's better than I am. Right now, I'm well, Bobby, you're better at this than I am. So
I can
who
do it. I can
am
do.
I?
I can
Don't
do it
give
like
him
a.
the whole show.
I can do it like a wrestling ring announcer if you like.
He's way better than I am at this stuff. So go
Mhm.
ahead.
Okay. Well, the list summarized things. One of the presenter of the longest running late night talk show in Canadian history, um, known as Ed and Red's Late Night Party. Also recipient of a Canadian Comedy Award, Shakespearean actress, video game developer, former games journalist, current host of the radio show It's Not Therapy, and also runs a business that means a lot to me called Liana Cares, which is a personal coaching business. And I'm trying to think, YouTuber, yeah. And oh God, there's so many to keep
See,
track
that's
of.
enough now. See, I wouldn't have ordered them in that way. I wouldn't have even brought up the TV thing. So thank you. That's what you're here for. Yeah.
I mean, I'm sorry, you sounded just like Anne Reardon there.
No, I didn't enunciate nearly enough. Anne Reardon's one of my characters. She's this cutthroat from my web series Boss Fight, which is being adapted into a video game called Song of Sparkle Muffin. But Anne Reardon's this cutthroat, corrupt video game marketing person who's doing these sales bits for a game called Angel Protocol, which is just the most pandering kind of Xbox 360 era video game you could possibly think of. But she secretly has a love of Broadway and wants to be a musical theater performer. So that episode ends in a musical number.
Brilliant,
Mm-hmm.
brilliant.
And the quote I was referencing was Anna's finishes one of her promos by saying, "Whoop like a bunch of trained simians and put on a good show. That's what you're here for."
Here for. Yep. And that was inspired by my days as a games journalist, where I really did feel like when we went to those E3 press conferences, they were useless for a reporter. But one year they did this Cirque du Soleil, did something. It was when they debuted the Kinect, I believe, but they put all of us in these weird white cult-like ponchos with these big shoulder pads. And we're like, what the heck are they? They were plastic, and so they were really warm. It was LA in June, and they were plastic, but at a certain part of the show, the shoulders would light up with different colors and patterns. And it's like, we're unpaid extras. Can we swear on this podcast?
Of course we
Sorry.
can swear on it.
All right. All right. All right. But I'm like, fuck you, Microsoft. It's just, that, yeah. Yeah. You want to get me bitter, have me talking about games journalism.
We will,
Coffee.
we will get into all that, but so I've done my research on you, Liana. Bobby
Uh-oh.
set me on the right track, right? So we've a lot to talk about here. I want to talk about Ed's night party first of all. I've been previewing a few little clips from it and everything else. I just want to know how did you get into all that and how did all that come about? to co-present that?
It begins as a women's studies major in university. No shit. That's actually where it came from.
Really?
And yeah, and it didn't really take. But I came out of it with this idea about the media. And when a local show, I met the executive producer who's now my husband, Steven, and I was like, I think we can be more interesting with this product, because it was all, not to offend anybody, it was a bunch of skinny white girls. There was no diversity in the way the dancers on the show looked. The presentation was very well, I wanted to make it more burlesque, because my whole theory of the case is that it's not us versus them when it comes to gender. It's women are completely fine with beautiful women. I'm declaring my bias. I love beautiful women. But as long as it's not insulting intelligence, it's not competitive, and everybody feels included. So it's like, let's get more different types of women, and they have to be able to talk at any point. So we had a floor director with, a microphone. Whenever a woman on the show wanted to say something, didn't matter if it was smart, didn't matter. That was them. Like, that was their authentic selves. And it worked really well. And, the most popular dancer we had on the show she was a size 16. She had hair out to here, boobs out to here. We were very popular in the local prison.
I wonder why.
when you're doing Friday night catharsis programming aimed at 18 to 34 male, being popular in prison is where you want to be, right? But I discovered that a lot of the theories I'd been taught in women's studies just fell apart under real world conditions. Things like male gaze, things like, objectification theory, though that's poorly taught. But I started trying to figure out why. And, then my own personal experiences, I can talk about gender and all these different images of women having done them, which is very different than the average person. I think that's really, really important. And rare in terms of life experience. So that's sort of where it started. But yeah, nobody had checked the ratings with women before we did it ourselves. And it turned out that not only, the numbers started rising when I went on camera 7 years later, but even we were beating, it was Leno and Letterman at the time. We were beating them in the ratings, this teeny little show in Canada. But also we showed that women will watch that content as long as women are included. And that sounds so obvious, but the way TV demographics are carved up, people think you have to offend one to appeal to the other, and that's just not so.
Okay, yeah. No, because it was like, I haven't seen much of it. I'm not gonna lie to you. I've watched clips of it, but it seems very fun and it's very out there and stuff. But like, you kind of, is it hard to? Would you face a lot of criticism over there, or like, because everyone in the media nowadays seems to be facing criticism about the content they put out. Like, how would you handle the kind of criticism you would get over there?
At the time, I didn't handle it well. I didn't understand it. I went from being a smart nerd who was, not appealing to men at all, to a dumb slut practically overnight. And it was the weirdest experience. I was the same person. It was just, you're styled for hair, makeup, other people dress you, other people do your hair, other people put stuff on your face. I was the same person. And I was producing, I was writing, I was doing that thing that the WGA writer strike is talking about now. I would be on set feeding jokes to, Ed and some of the others, the previous co-hosts before me. I was doing that job. But all of a sudden, I was a dumb little idiot who was only interested in attention. And it was this weird set of stereotypes. And people who knew me before started treating me that way.
Mm.
And it made me aware of how the dynamics really work and how women are often the most utterly awful to other women when it comes to this stuff. People think that a lot of women dress for men's approval, but in fact, a lot of the, harshest self-critique comes from what other women are going to think about what you're wearing. Because obviously, there's a lot of social friction when you don't play that game. And yeah, it was really nasty. And so when these discussions come up now about depictions of women in the media and what's considered a strong woman, the aspirational stuff we have right now, where either it's the hot mess, something like Girls, the Lena Dunham show, or even Sex and the City, or the strong woman that you see in a lot of the modern Star Wars stuff. And it's either complete self-doubt and complete self-loathing, or complete sureness of the purpose and everybody follows you. And that just isn't the way the world works.
Yeah, because I think the difference is best highlighted between the animated Mulan and the remake. Like, the original Mulan is so popular because she is just, what I love about her is she's, realistically, she's got some athleticism because she's used to working on her farm, but she's completely unprepared for combat. So she's pretty terrible at first, and she has to really buckle down and work hard to improve. Yeah. But her main attribute is her cleverness. So she already had that. And so that's how she saves the day. But in the 2020 live action remake, she's basically just immediately great at everything. She's the chosen one, blessed with this magical specialness.
Yeah,
and it's
which is what keeps girls in a box. This idea that a talent is something men develop, qualities are innate in women. That's the way we train boys and girls. And as somebody who didn't fit neatly into those boxes when I grew up, I wanted to be Lion-O and Beast from X-Men. Lion-O's a Thundercat, don't judge. But that idea of you have to be instantly good at something or you'll never be good at it is incredibly toxic messaging to be given to girls. On Two Women Talking, my co-host Song W. Edson and I talked about this week on the show, and I said, because she's much more girly. I'm tomboy, she's girly girl on the show, and I said, do you feel pressure to quit before you fail? This is how we train women. And she says, in my case, that's true. And so this messaging, we think we're giving girls strong female role models in Rey, in Bo-Katan, in the modern Mulan, but it's not good to show girls depictions of women who are instantly and intuitively good at everything. Because, I work by being bad at everything and just embracing it, just making a mess of everything and tunneling through. And part of that is I want to show that you can improve.
Yeah.
You don't have to be perfect out of the box.
Do you think, especially with women, do you think the media are almost forcing messages down by what they're showing in films and whatever about a way a certain person has to be or act? Does all that need to be changed?
I think, and of course we focus on the women when we look at messaging for women, but really it's everybody. One thing I learned in my journey is you can't just isolate men or isolate women. You have to take humans as a whole, because the one trope I think needs to be more thought out. It can be done well, but it often isn't, is womanizing as a flaw at the beginning of a man's journey. You look at the Marvel Cinematic Universe and you've got Iron Man and Star-Lord, and it's this whole, one of the first things we see of Star-Lord is there's a woman in the cargo hold of his ship that he's forgotten about. That's not just womanizing. That's awful treatment. It's not funny. And that normalizes that behavior in the eyes of women regarding men. And I think that makes it seem like women think, oh, that's just what men do. They don't care about women. They don't see us as people. And so the guys who don't feel that way, there are plenty out there, don't get seen because that's seen as normal, right? And so you've got all these people going, why can't I find a good guy? Why don't women give me a chance? Well, it's crap like that. The media doesn't change our minds about things. The media is very, very good at making something seem like normal behavior. And that's the big challenge. How to get something out there that makes money, because these movies have to make $1 billion now, right? Makes money, but also doesn't reinforce that, because that's not real.
Obviously you've been in the television business for a long time in Canada. How ruthless is it as an industry to kind of stay within that?
I've stepped away from TV because it's ruthless is one thing. I can handle ruthless. It's the ineptitude of the evil. A showrunner, very well known, I won't name drop him because I don't want him to be responsible for me. But he said, you'll meet two types of people in this industry: smart and evil and stupid and evil. You want to work with the smart and evil people because you can predict them. And Canada, because we're the satellite of the US, we're very, very good at producing American created and workshop content. We've got The Boys, we had Supernatural, we had all the CW, Legends of Tomorrow, shows like that. We are crappy at developing shows. You'll notice that almost every, I don't know if you've seen the show Kim's Convenience over there, but you know, Paul Lee and Simu Liu are now both working for Disney. Paul's on Star Wars, Simu's Shang-Chi. Because you get a hit show in Canada, you go to the bottom up, you go to the back of the line again. Well, you've had your turn. Let someone else have it. They're terrible at developing talent. They're terrible at not being horrendously intimidated by talent, because the minute you care about a good product, you're difficult, you're hard to work with, and they really poison the well. And there's no reason we can't have a more thriving domestic industry. It's just so dysfunctional right now, and it's much better to be on the internet. Or, you know, our game design industry is thriving because we don't have that plutocracy, whatever you want to call it. It isn't the usual suspects greenlighting everything. And management in the major media companies here is rewarded for inaction. So if you don't do anything, nobody notices. If you do something and it fails, you get fired. So there's no innovation.
Yeah, in some ways, Ireland is kind of a bit similar, at least in terms of producing content. Like, we're kind of, again, we're a satellite where it's like, you know, the UK and the US will film over here, and you know, but even Irish roles will be cast with, you know, London talent will get the. Are you okay?
Yeah. Sorry, I laughed and I coughed.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, London talent will get the privilege and the priority, and then if you're an Irish actor, you'll maybe get, you know, the best you can hope for is a day player line in one of those big shows. And I think the last successful homegrown show we produced was Love Hate, and that's how many is that? 13 years ago now, Richie?
Yeah, that is a long time ago. And really, to be honest with you, we haven't had a show that's been up to that standard since, really, Bobby, have we?
Yeah, everything good that's has an Irish influence has had to have backing from another country. Like,
oh, okay, so that explains some of those shows. Like, there was one set in Galway. What's his name? He was in Game of Thrones. He played a detective in the oh god, I'm blanking on the name, but that was set in Galway, but I guess that was UK produced.
Oh, what is it? It's gonna kill me.
I don't even know what this one is. Sorry.
You know the one I'm talking about, right? Ian Glenn's in it.
Oh god, what is it?
I'm gonna look it up. He was amazing. Jack Taylor. That's what it was called.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's the one thing you could say about Ireland. Like we have the locations and the kind of
Mhm.
the scenery for that. I think that's why more and more are coming over. And actually, when Star Wars come over here to film on Skellig Island, I was buzzing for that. And in the film, it looked amazing. Obviously, we know what they did with Luke. I'm not going to go into all that. That's a rant for another day.
Wow,
Um,
it doesn't say who produced it on Wikipedia. That's really funny.
yeah, there's probably some.
Oh, TV3.
Okay,
Oh, okay, that's
Okay,
homegrown then.
TV3. Yeah, that
Mhm.
was homegrown.
yeah, brilliant.
Okay. Yeah, so check that one out. That's a good show. It's
Mhm.
kind of stereotypical, okay, because they get into the Galway drinking
Yeah.
culture. And I was like, but yeah, it's a good, he's wonderful in it. Absolutely wonderful.
While we're on it, before we continue on, Leanna, I don't know if you've been in Ireland, but have you tried a Guinness or anything yet over here, or it's just a random question?
Guinness is not my favorite stout.
Okay.
There are others. I know that's blasphemy. Um, but yeah, I like going around and those little tiny ones that like it's like a distillery in the back of something and you just try it and it's
Yeah.
it's fresh and I mean pub culture is something I love.
Yeah.
I'm one of those families where there's family members from Ireland and they never talk about it because I went through the UK and it's like just shut up and talk. But yeah, it's I know it's the Guinness is the whole thing, but that is that produced by Kilkenny over there? It's a little different over here.
Oh, God. I believe so.
Uh,
I think it is.
Yeah, because when Guinness went to cans, there was an uproar here.
really?
Yeah, you can't do that because they have the little bobbing widget in it
Mhm.
and everything like that. It was a big. I mean, beer, any sort of beer is big
Uh,
in Canada, and we have the US that we call cricket's piss beer.
is
The
that the
whole
name
Bud
of it?
Light, yeah, we call Bud Light cricket's piss.
Oh, yeah,
And but then we've got I mean, my stepdad was a fan until the day he died of Old Speckled Hen, which is a Manchester. It's almost fruity, but yeah, you don't know beer until you've had beer over there. And then,
Mhm.
yeah, stout is its own thing. I mean, you don't have to eat when you're drinking stout. You're so full.
yeah, true.
I'm very tempted to. Oh yeah, poor Dana, a mutual friend of us and Liana and Richie. You'll probably meet her eventually. I'm going to completely throw her under the bus
Oh
now because
no.
she's German, and Germans are very particular about their beer. And I've never let her live this down. Once she joined a Zoom call from Germany, and I saw the can she was drinking, and I was like, "Oh, is that Heineken?" And she just cackled and goes, "Heineken is for peasants."
Well, Heineken's a traveler's drink because it tastes the same no matter where you go.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Does it necessarily taste good?
They do say consistency is the key to success. So
There you go.
Uh,
sorry, Richie, I derailed the conversation there
you are all
completely.
good, sir. I don't know how we got into beer there. That's
You asked me if I've
probably,
ever had Guinness. Yeah.
maybe I'm thinking of Guinness at the minute. That's what's doing it. Um, I was going to come on now to your show. It's not therapy. Because I actually did have a chance to listen to it, and I love the theme of it. I love the fact that the promotion of like positive thinking and looking after your mental health. And the first episode I actually listened to was on stress. And forgive me, I forget the name of the guy that came on the first episode. I apologize.
The
Um,
guess?
yeah, guest came on the first episode of on stress. I think forget his
I'm
name.
gonna look it up, but keep
Yeah.
talking.
But you were talking about the stress that young people face in schools, and
Mhm.
it's kind of funny because we're coming into like the junior cert, leaving cert, which is like kind of final exams in Ireland at the minute, and you see it every day of young people stressing and getting so overstressed about it. Um, and there was some good points raised. I was just wondering, do you think that young people, there is a lot of stress on young people, especially within the school curriculum. Could that be kind of changed? This is just from listening to your episode because I found it a very,
Mhm.
very valid point.
Yeah, that was Jason Bradshaw in that episode. He's an
Yeah.
award-winning teacher out in Mississauga. Yeah, I do think that younger people get blamed for the anxiety epidemic, and it's done to them. It was just starting when I got out of school, because as college now became mandatory, um, people start feeling the pressure younger and younger, and you're asking people to make major decisions that are outflows of money, and having to apply and be judged and get rejected when their personalities are still forming. I mean, adolescence doesn't stop biochemically until between the ages of 25 and 28. And there's this mixed message that young people get that, oh, well, you can't make any decisions. You don't know what you want. It's just a phase. And yet you have to decide what you're going to certify for the next, God knows how long. It's too much. And this idea that every test is make or break, every mark will matter. It's just not true. The most important life skill is learning how to get back up after you fall, learning how, when things are too much, talk about it. And that's the one thing in school you can't do. You go to somebody, look, I'm having all these issues, I'm not going to be able to get this done. Well, you're going to fail then, instead of working with somebody. That's not life, right? We've all done productions. Things go wrong. Things take later. How you negotiate that is the difference between the project succeeding and the projects failing. And we actively teach young people to avoid those discussions, because when they do it with professors, when they do it with teachers, it's like, well, you better figure it out. Too bad. That's doing the opposite of preparing a young person for the world.
Yeah.
Because then you tell them to negotiate, right? Negotiate salary, negotiate this. Well, if they've never had an effective negotiation because everything's just nope, why would they do that? It doesn't make any sense, right?
I'm still learning how to negotiate salaries for everything.
Well, the truth is, in a lot of cases, I had this the other day. You're meeting with potential representation, and what's your schedule usually like? And the answer is it's all over the place. And what do you usually charge? You have to give them a number, but that number is going to lock you in. So I was just bombarded with information, overly honest. It's like, well, it'll be $200 to lecture at a college, or $5,000 for like a high-end keynote. It's all over the place. And then of course you get, well, our standard rate is $3,500. It's like, you knew that. Why didn't you just say it? Why'd you ask me? Because that's the game. So it's taken me this long to come up with the non-answer answer that gets to that actual number.
I have a quote from that episode, and this quote stuck out at me.
Okay.
So I have it written down because I would have forgot it. So I'm just gonna give it back to you because it actually caught me off guard, right? But I love it.
Okay.
You said in the first episode, people get stuck in life replaying fights with villains from the past.
Boy, yeah.
I love that quote. I think I know what it means, but like, what is it? Just like get rid of people that kind of hold you down from your past to try to make you feel bad.
Yeah and no. It's not the person, it's the relationship with the event, right? And the whole heroes and villains thing, again, it's that learning how to fail. And trauma is, I was diagnosed with PTSD in 2012, 2013. Trauma messes with my sense of time, so nailing me down on dates is really difficult. But one of the things I realized that they don't teach you in this very medicalized language is I was just trying to get a win out of a no-win situation. And because it was Batman fighting the Joker again and again and again. And, Batman eventually always wins. And that's not You can't do that in life. And that's when I started playing with metaphors. It's like, well, this wasn't an action video game. This was a survival horror game. The goal was to survive and escape, not win. And that helped me pivot it. Now, when you feel like you're taken advantage of, when you feel like you failed or were humiliated, we tend to run it through our mind looking for an answer or a redo or even just a lesson so it doesn't happen again. And relinquishing an element of control, I started working a lot with sort of mischievous characters and trickster deities and gods from various faith pantheons to just embrace the chaos, and that's why when beforehand it's like, how are you? Are you ready? It's like, I'm drinking coffee. I'll be much more ready in 15 minutes. I'm the living embodiment of not having it all together, and I'm much happier for it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. One of the things I say on the show is perfect is a lie. Stop trying to be perfect. Everybody says, yeah, okay, nobody's perfect. We don't internalize that. Right. We try to be so perfect. And what is that? It's not even a thing. What's perfect for one people is terrible for another, including my grammar there. You see, I'm living proof.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm definitely a victim of that myself, where it was like I put so much, no one else put this pressure on me, but I put this pressure on myself to be perfect, to be like 100% there all the time. And pretty much it's impossible to meet, and you basically beat yourself up for not meeting these impossible standards of perfections. It's like you're kind of constantly trying to aim for these goalposts that are constantly moving because you yourself are moving them. And I remember in one of your Wellness Wednesday videos, which I would also recommend binging, by the way, you highlighted the difference between healing and wallowing. And and wallowing is, in some ways, it's comfortable because it's familiar, and basically you're kind of just going through the same thing over and over again. And thankfully, I realized, several traumatic things I went through. I realized I was healing when, someone asked me about it, and I was like, oh God, I have to tell this story again. And I was just like, I'm sick of telling this story. I'm just, and that way, sorry, you can probably summarize that much more eloquently than I can, but
no, I mean, it's good to hear how it lands with other people. That's how I refine, right? I mean, you're right that healing looks different from other people, and we get a lot of platitudes on the subject, right? Just move on, just get closure.
And moving on is the destination.
Yeah, moving on is a side effect of figuring it out. And I know with me, I work with a lot of people who are still struggling with stuff that happened to them. You can pretty much tell when the bad thing happened to someone based on certain developmental markers. So the damage caused when something happens before the age of 6 is different from 6 to 12, is different from 12 to 15, is different from 15 to 18, 18 to 24, 25. And it's amazing how precise you can get because of human development, right? It's how where it hits, how it forms, and how much of that inner loop. Is it just a feeling? Is it just this this immediate aversion that happens in something? I had a severe health crisis when I was 11 months old, and it left me terrified of needles through most of my life up until the teenage years. It wasn't conscious. It was just an aversion, as opposed to something that happens to somebody between 12 and 15, which gives them this story. This, I refer to as a superhero origin story, right? Batman seeing his parents killed, right there. It's real and it's fundamental. And that's where those old villains come in. It seems really romantic that Batman is basically continuing to fight that gunman that killed his parents, to the point that they've made it the Joker in a lot of movies, right? When you think about that, that would mean the Joker, if Batman's like 35, that would mean the Joker's much older. He wouldn't be able to take a punch the same way, but we romanticize that when in fact, like, Batman has severe PTSD. If he's still going back to that, imagine all the good Bruce Wayne could do in the world if he wasn't fighting that fight, if he wasn't going out beating up street thugs every night and put his energy towards poverty reduction and his Wayne Foundation charitable work. No, he outsources that to Lucius Fox and guys like that. He's out beating up petty criminals. He could train people to do that, but he just keeps fighting that man with a gun in the alley. And I think that's why a lot of guys relate to Batman.
Yeah, it's an interesting way of looking at it. I never looked at Batman that way before.
Yeah, sorry.
Actually, this reminds me of a fun exercise. I think you came up with it last year, where I'm going to test it out on all three of us now. Whereas, like, you can tell a lot about someone based on who their favorite
Batman villain,
and there's also favorite Avenger and favorite Disney princess as well.
Yep. So we can do all three.
So, would you like to go first to give Richie time to think about it? Favorite Avenger, yeah.
Well, my favorite. Oh God, see, the favorite Avenger is a tough one because it changes by the week. I'm back on Cap now. Yeah, I shift, but the whole "I can do this all day" is so my mantra. And I have a lot of Bucky Barneses in my life, and so it's just sort of become a thing. But that first Avengers movie, my dude is Loki, man. He's not an Avenger, but that dude got the shaft. I identify with that character so much that I was actually triggered by the Disney Plus show.
Really? Oh my God, yeah.
When he's being kicked in the balls by a memory over and over and over again, I rage quit my TV. I was like, nope. This is torture. This is not okay. These people are bad and evil and terrible. And what is this? This is not the story I want to watch. Yeah. So yeah, I kind of break the question, but that's me. Favorite Disney princess. Again, I mean, right now, Ariel is just enraging people. And so she's in my mind right now. And Batman villain, that one stays Poison Ivy, hands down. Hands down, Poison Ivy. So good. So underutilized, so misunderstood, so good.
And actually, we share a lot of the same opinions there, because I think my favorite Avenger is Cap as well. And I kind of just love the idea of I don't find anti-heroes that interesting, to be honest. I'm way more interested by someone who just kind of chooses to be good because it's the right thing. And I just think Chris Evans had the hard job there. Like, I mean, because, you know, like, you have to like make someone like that seem like a real person as well and kind of understand why they do it. And I do like Scarlet Witch as well, but on seeing Multiverse of Madness, you know, I mean, Liana knows me. I like the bad girls.
That was my favorite. Bobby, you know, I was like, they better make her the villain in that movie because she so is. And then she was, and I'm like, yes. But, you know, I do have a Captain America shield in my background, so that was kind of cheating.
Yeah, I think in terms of Disney princesses, Ariel is up there, you know, because I only realized last year kind of the parallels between her and someone who's autistic like I am, like the whole collecting this very specific
brushing
thing.
Her hair with the fork and the collection and the intense interest. Yeah,
and then also Jasmine, you know, I kind of relate to her a lot as well, I guess. I don't know, just those are the ones that spoke to me a lot, and a little bit of Pocahontas too. Although Greg says Pocahontas was his favorite, and a lot of things made sense about him there. So, and sorry, Richie, you're the host. You get to have the floor now.
You're gonna have to be boring, and for favorite Marvel, I'm gonna have to go with Cap again because I think first of all, I love Chris Evans, right? Brilliant. But how tough it must be to start off such a universe in the first film and get you to kind of be associated with a character. He just brought me in straight away. I love his story. Everything about him. I know a lot of people would say Iron Man. I do like him, but not so much. Not as much as Captain America. And I mean, the shield is awesome.
That's still the most unpopular YouTube video I ever did when I pointed out that the big Iron Man snap is a war crime. He decimated 3 whole militaries, one of which was conscripts, without giving them a chance to surrender. People were furious at me. but that Robert Downey Jr. is phenomenal in the part. He needed to be pulled back a bit on the direction. But I waffled on that. I almost said Thor, which is so weird, and Song is going to laugh at me for that one. I've been big into the butthead stuff lately because he's not. Thor is an example of a character who isn't clever. He hits stuff, right? But he has this. Chris Hemsworth.
Yeah.
Has this ability to go there emotionally. And it's weird because he loves these stupid comedies, but when he kicks a vending machine in Thor Love and Thunder in a way that I could just watch again and again and again and again. He was so authentic in that moment of helplessness and frustration, and I can't throw a hammer at something and make it go here. And I do think when we tend to intellectualize a lot of stuff, which I know I've been doing the whole time here, but sometimes we just have to go grunt, smash, giant goat, and that is life. But one of the things I discovered doing to him and talking, because Song, my co-host, she loves Thor. Thor is like her perfect guy. And I'm like,
Didn't she say that like during the first film, I think when he took his shirt off, one of her friends had to remind her how to breathe?
Yeah, and I had the exact opposite. I saw it with my mother and my sister, and they were both woohoo, and I'm like, oh my God, dude, no, I shouldn't be seeing this. But I am too much like him to go there, I guess. That's what I've realized. Like some of my reactions, she's like, yeah, that's pretty much you. And that, I have the heart of a barbarian in the body of I don't know. But yeah, have you guys seen Hawkeye? The Disney Plus series?
No, actually, it's the only one I haven't really.
Oh, it's so undervalued. It's so good. It's so good. It's so self-effacing. And Rogers the musical is the best play within a play I've seen in a long time. And Bobby knows I love plays within a play. So that's high praise. It's a shitty off-Broadway musical. And there's so little things, the cheap costumes and the colorblind casting. And one character's a woman, even though it's a man. And it's beautiful schmaltz. But I mean that's the genius of those golden and silver age comics. Like I really believe it was a bunch of stealth Jewish creators creating junk culture who was just like, I'm going to tell my story steeped in metaphor and make it matter because I'm not seeing these stories in the cinema or in books. I'm going to validate my experience. And I think that's why people connect to them so intensely, because even though, yes, we're never going to get radioactive spider powers, we know what it's like to be Peter Parker's day-to-day. And Bobby knows my love of Tom Holland. I love Tom Holland, but I'm not him. I'm not that nice. I'm not that charming. So I love Tom Holland. Yeah.
And so I keep saying to Richie that I'll make him watch Charmed the next time he's over in my house, because the two guys that he used to run another podcast with, check out The Grounded Way if you want to take a trip down memory lane. The three of them correspond to the three Charmed ones so perfectly, and Richie corresponds Piper, Holly Marie Combs' character. I mean,
okay.
I showed him a clip of, it's one of my favorite lines where it's her husband is telling her, it's like, okay, we don't have time for you to lose it. And she goes, well, too bad, because I am losing it, whether we have time for it or not. And he's just watching, he's like, yes, this is me. And it actually
underrated show.
It corresponds to the order of age as well, because the oldest guy, sorry, Connor, I'm throwing you under the bus, even though you look 20, even though you look 23, we know you're not that age. He corresponds to Prue, the Shannon Doherty character, and Nathan, the youngest one, he corresponds to Phoebe, the baby. Although I throw a bit of a wrench in it when I guest starred, because I'm very much Paige, the Rose McGowan character, so... Yeah, sorry, Richie, I stepped over you saying your favorite Disney princess.
You're grand. Look, for Disney princesses, I'm just going to stick with Ariel, right? Because I'm not going to pretend I know a lot about Disney princesses because I don't. So I'm not even going to lie about it. Um,
Yeah,
then for villain, is this for a favorite Batman villain?
Batman. Yeah, Batman
Yeah,
villain.
now I could be really boring and go with Joker. I'm not going to, but like I can understand the Joker
That's
story. But
but that's not boring. Like
uh,
that's a really common one.
yeah,
Um, especially with I mean the Joaquin Phoenix movie was
oh yeah,
brilliant.
yeah, that was really good.
So good.
Give me a
Did
new.
Bobby say his favorite Batman villain?
No, he
Oh,
didn't.
I forgot to. Well, I'll let you say yours and then I'll say mine.
I would either go with. I'm gonna go with Joker, but I'd have to mention the Riddler as well because I don't know. I just there's something about Riddler as well. I don't know. I
He
can't.
seems very your personality, yeah.
Yeah, there's something about him, the game playing and stuff, and just the way he watches the hero trying to figure everything out. There's something about it. I don't
Hmm.
know.
So you're a people watcher who avoids direct conflict and tends to over intellectualize feelings?
Possibly, I don't know. Never really thought that much about it, but yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
But
sometimes you do remind me of Jim Carrey's performance of the Riddler, so
very good.
Paul Dano's was great. The Riddler in Arkham City
Yeah,
was I mean, that's they borrowed a lot from that in the movie, but that's my favorite Riddler is the video game Riddler.
yeah.
mhm. Yeah,
Definitely.
I think with me, I I am feeling Poison Ivy, but I'm not sure like if I'm like getting the right experience for. I'm reading Gotham City Sirens at the moment, and kind of all I've had to go off beforehand is Batman and Robin, which I don't really
Right.
give much airtime
I
in my
mean,
brain, but I do like the
there's a lot in common between her and Paige on Charmed.
really, yeah.
In Gotham City Sirens, yeah, they're very similar. Um, I mean, the Poison Ivy from the comics to me, she doesn't know where to put her anger, and
Mhm.
she's really aware of it, but she turns it into kind of a seduction routine,
Mhm.
which is why you don't see her anymore because Hollywood is really uncomfortable with sexuality as a weapon, right?
Hmm. Oh yeah, I mean, I love the yeah, I love. There was a thing on Twitter a couple of weeks ago where it's like, oh, post your favorite archetypes, and one of my favorite ones was the good bad girl. As in, I'm not sure if I prefer Poison Ivy as a villain or a wild card, because I like Catwoman as well, but I'm
Yeah.
kind of going off the Batman
I mean,
Returns version.
the thing about Poison Ivy is I feel so bad for her with Harley. Like, you know, girl, you're better for her. She ain't gonna see it. That so sucks, you
Mhm.
know.
Was it
So,
you said if someone like fancies Harley Quinn, that's a red flag and run like hell?
oh, that character scares me. The appeal, because it is you're telling a lot. Guys love that character, and I get why, but yikes. Yeah, I thought James Gunn stuck a pin in her so well. That one scene in Suicide Squad. Have you guys seen it?
Mm.
The
Where it's
second
this,
one?
yeah,
I've seen
the
the first
thing
one,
with
not the second
the
one.
bird. Oh, okay, I won't spoil the scene because it's the only good Poison Ivy that Harley Quinn scene in the whole thing, but it shows why you stay away from girls like Harley Quinn. And I'm like, good for you, James Gunn. You have learned. Um, but there's this idea, and this is a big overshare, that girls like Harley Quinn are dynamite in bed, and it's really not true. It's needy and desperately seeking connection, and at the core of it is a people-pleasing abuse cycle.
Mm.
And that does not lead to good sex. That leads to shitty sex with a lot of fallout afterwards. Listen to me. You will know when it is time to follow
Yeah,
that advice. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I think I never did find her appealing because I already had dealt with a few girls like that. So,
Yeah. And I mean they do you do want to save them. You do. And
mhm.
you have to realize you can't.
Yeah, I think that's kind of why Poison Ivy and Catwoman have kind of they work better. They work well as like wild cards who aren't straight up villains because there's a morality there, and they have their shit together in a sense.
Yeah, I mean, the Tim Burton Catwoman, Michelle Pfeiffer, so inspired me when I was like
Oh,
16
I
years
love this
old.
story.
Yeah, the I was a nerdy kid that nobody noticed, and so I can do that. And so I ripped up a whole bunch of black clothes in my closet and made the suit the way she did, and I wore it for Halloween, and suddenly I existed as a female presence in the world, and all these guys who wouldn't give me the time of day suddenly noticed me and continued to notice me. And oh, did I hate them because of that? Like, seriously, that's all it took. But I mean, that was one of those things where um it was my first I talked before about that experience in TV. That was sort of it as a kid, that we do. I mean, people really respond to those signifiers, and they're not intending to. 16-year-old boys, I mean, you can't judge too hard in retrospect, but yeah, it was a real eye-opener. And I think that's part of why Michelle Pfeiffer's kind of tragic, angry, self-destructive performance in that film took so many people, just sat forward, because she was dipping into something deep there. And it was such a cheesy movie, but her and Danny DeVito were phenomenal in it.
Mhm. For those who don't know, Liana was also, well, still is, extremely a talented cosplayer. And
Yes, I
Richie,
was
have you
going to
ever
bring that up. I was going to bring it up.
Yeah,
have
I
you
mean,
ever
I've kind
cosplayed,
of
Richie?
I haven't, but I don't know. Who would I go for? Really? I don't know.
Whoever you want.
I don't know. It's such a tough question.
Well, I mean, I have what I think I have 3 Power Ranger suits right now. You can wear one of mine.
you
Whereas,
I would
rock those
definitely
so
wear.
much.
Mhm. Yeah, well, it was actually kind of through the therapy I was doing with you last year. Oh, sorry,
Mm.
it's hashtag not therapy, but um, yeah, obviously, like view your trauma as your superhero origin story. So I'm just like, fuck it, just put on blue or yellow spandex, and I'm a Power Ranger for 5 minutes. So
Yeah, yeah. Leanne, I was going to ask you actually, because Bobby's read my mind, because I was going to go into cosplay. I want to know, right? Give me who would you dress up as cosplay? Who'd be the first character you'd go to?
Now,
Yeah, if you had to choose
well,
one.
if I could put the time in, Flemeth from Dragon Age.
Okay.
Yeah, just because I'm there right now. I mean, I've done a lot of the I've done Ivy Valentine, the Poison Ivy, Catwoman, Batwoman. I absolutely loved that. Chitara from Thundercats. That was a ton of fun.
Power Girl.
The one Power Girl, super fun. Um Ones that allow me to not get punished for being aggressive. The one I had a ton of fun of, and I didn't expect it. I just did it because I wanted a costume I could wear in the winter and not freeze my nuts off. Was Johnny Depp's Mad Hatter from the
Yeah.
Alice in Wonderland movie. That
Really?
I love the energy from
Yeah.
that costume, and I couldn't wear it for a while because of the drama. But I love that headspace. It's the exact opposite. I tried to cosplay Harley Quinn once and just felt so icky that I couldn't do it. But yeah, the Johnny Depp Mad Hatter surprised me
Yeah.
in how good that felt.
I love all Tim Burton stuff, have to say.
Yeah. Well, his textures and his patterns and everything like that. But I don't know, the giant hat felt really good, but just kind of, eye movements set tone, the way you set your eyes. And there was something just good about, and then the wrist flicks,
Hmm.
the way he does it. And it just, Johnny Depp's a very get the posture down actor. And so it just felt good to inhabit that. And this is when I start sounding crazy, but that's cosplay for me. It's being in um a different state. It's being a different person for a while and getting a break from the expectations. And the one that I actually had to stop doing because it got too adversarial was the Leia bikini, the little metal bikini for Princess Leia,
From
because
Return of the Jedi.
yeah, because that's choke the bastard with his own chain energy, right? I loved wearing that suit. Um, but too many guys yanked the chain like they touch it without permission, and it was always some vendor or some assholes just like and I, I would have been fine if I could actually have knocked them out and been fine with it, but you get in trouble for doing that, and then it just
You need to
became
give them the
so
Java treatment, Liana.
yeah, well, that's the thing. They did it, and it's just this flash because it's your neck, right? And it isn't here, it pulls from the back, and it's just this, and I just, I have a strong fight response, and the self-control it took was angering, because the fun thing about that is Carrie Fisher brain, right? Like the look of death she has that whole time. It's so empowering, but then it became this, don't wear that around children and put some clothes on, and took all the fun out of it. I'll be very glad when we can have those experiences, because that was inspired by Deja Thoris from the Barsoom series from Edgar Rice Burroughs as well, and that's one of my my favorite classic works of science fiction. Still holds up so well, and I just think that in this pigeonholing we're doing with people now, we've lost so much. We've lost so many tools for expression, and I miss it. I don't like that everyone's in a protective crouch now. It's cutting us off from something very human.
Yeah. Everything's taken too serious nowadays.
Except the things that should be serious.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So Richie, who are we going to cosplay as when we go to Comic-Con this year?
Oh, I was hoping Liana would kind of suggest, just by our characters and kind of getting a grasp of us last hour, if she could give us a character. Because I haven't a clue.
Well, I mean, I know I'm going to be one of the Power Rangers. I'll probably be RPM Blue, because it doesn't sweat as much, so I can feel comfortable wearing that.
It doesn't sweat as much. So you want to go like full-blown superhero?
Yeah, Richie, do you want to try that?
Yeah, sure. We might as well go for it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, some is going on. What she got?
Because they're not distinct enough looks, but if you wanted to do together the two guys from A Way Out, you guys would be perfect for.
I don't even know what that is.
Oh, it's a video game.
Oh, okay, sorry.
But yeah, it's not a distinct enough look. Because I tend to go with sort of like the face, and then what you're comfortable, and like, what do you want to do? There's no wrong answers. I don't like people who, I don't have the right body type and all that stuff. It's like, you can fake that stuff. But do you want to, like, what kind of state do you want to embody at a convention? Because cosplay is all about maximizing your experience.
Yeah.
So do you want to do something that, because I think you'd make a great Doctor Strange.
Oh, yeah.
Just with those brows, like.
Good old Benedict.
Yeah, you could do that, because you've got you have to have the brow line. To make that work. You could be great on that. There's another one that's right at the tip of my tongue. I mean, you could do Billy Butcher from The Boys really easily.
Yes, oh my god, yes.
I love that fucking character. Carl Urban all the fucking way, man. So good. I love
the Benedict one, actually. I love the Benedict one.
I love Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
And so yeah.
And then you'll have to fly over here in August and just to be Scarlet Witch then.
Yeah.
Oh God.
Yeah.
See, I have this idea in my mind that I had this whole Scarlet Witch story in my head, because I knew George Perez, and that, rest in peace. And he was very close to Scarlet Witch. And he was the one that gave her the coin belt. And so I had this whole MCU idea of, it's how we could bring in the whole kind of Louisiana contingent of the MCU with Gambit, and she'd be doing like a fortune teller thing, hiding out kind of thing. And she had this very elaborate, like, twisted iron to do and it was a really distinct look. And then they made her so boring in the original introduction. I'm like, fuck, Joss Whedon, that is not cool. Because she's one of the coolest looking characters in the MCU. And it's an excuse to make another headpiece, because now I won't wear my Mara cosplay. Characters, Jessica. I can go swimming in the Mara costume. It's actually bathing suit material.
Oh, that's cool. And
I love it.
And we'll let the record say you would have been a much better choice for that character than What's Her Face.
I think so, but it's also great because I'm a ginger and it's like full body, right? So the back of my knees don't get sunburned going swimming. It was such a win-win. I love that costume. And now people are going to think I'm some psycho bed shitter. I don't want that. And another one I was really bummed at was the Aquaman movie. Because that could have been so good. And people loved it. Yeah. And that was one of those ones where I'm like, I'm just going to let people enjoy things and just sort of like gnaw on my knuckle, right? But yeah. See, you learn a lot by talking about your favorite characters. I love these conversations. That's why the sort of toxic fandom thing makes me so upset, because it shuts these things down. Because people don't feel like they can say, I relate to this character because then the judgments happen. And that's not good, because there are no wrong answers. But yes, you'd be an awesome Doctor Strange.
Yeah, Nathan will be so happy. Well, does he like Doctor Strange?
Hopefully he watches this.
We will make him watch it, because we'll tell him how much we talk about him in it.
Awesome.
So we're gonna get on to a final segment. Bobby knows about it. It's called an either or thing. We're gonna put some choices to you, but
binary choices.
We have to talk about your game briefly.
Okay.
We didn't get into it. So boss fight, Song of Sparkle Muffin, am I right? Got that
right?
Talk to me a bit about that. What is it about, and how did you get into that?
It came out of the boss fight web series. And it's funny because Princess Sparkle Muffin started off as a one-off on my show Lady Bits. And she was intended to be a character so annoying you'd root for the evil queen. And I actually had to practice the voice because, it started with Princess Peach, and I wanted to pull her down kind of halfway between Princess Peach and Snow White, because that super kawaii anime voice is just painful. But she was ditzy and, helpless, and help, I am captured again. Because she just get captured over and over and over again. And the evil queen is like trying to, the evil queen is trying to be evil, and I can't kidnap the prince. And she just ends up feeling so sorry for her that they end up getting drunk together. And because I was you once, honey. And the interesting thing is the evil queen's voice is based on Jack Sparrow from Pirates of the Caribbean. Because I needed something that didn't sound like my female Bowser and didn't sound like another character I did. So it's all the distinct voice placements. But people loved the princess. And I think it was because an inversion of the sweet little thing getting just shit-faced, passed out drunk. And so we moved her into the main character of Boss Fight, which if you had told me when I was a kid that I would make I would play a fairy tale princess, nope, you're lying. But she was so fun because of the things you can't do. You can't have her hit someone, right? You can't have her break down and start. She is that nice. And the more I started playing the character, the more fun it was, because she is a character constantly chafing at limitations. And that eventually became the ending of Boss Fight is what I call the Charlie Brown's Christmas speech. That slow pan in where they just do that thing on the presentation, and it's oddly compelling. And so she does a whole thing about kindness and being nice and this is why we do things. And of course, the cast of characters surrounding her came from another character from Boss Fight, who again was supposed to be this super annoying character that was supposed to be the heel in the skit that you rooted against. That was the social justice warrior. Outrage, 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 outrage. And I realized all the Lady Bits characters were supposed to be women. I was not playing Solomon as a woman. I was playing Solomon as a man. And so between Lady Bits and Boss Fight, Solomon transitions. And so he's the knight errant who is forced into being a hero. He really wants to be the sidekick. And so they become buddies. And then people started shipping them. That was interesting. But then we got the Princess Sparkle Pony, who's a demon a soul-eating demon who chose to be a unicorn, a rainbow unicorn. Because why not? And she loves to dance. And then there's like the Arthurian type boy who's raised by the Baba Yaga, and it all became these fairy tale tropes. And so Boss Fight was a show about a game. And when we started going, what do we do next? What's season 2? Because the Kickstarter backers got to vote on the major plot points. And so it was like a collective choose your own adventure. And we started realizing that a sequel actually made more sense as a game than as a web series, because there were certain things we could do, like bring in people of color, bring in more male characters, because obviously, I can't play a black person. That would be a very bad idea. And one of them actually did move in. He was just a fist that was stock footage, but he was a social justice bard that's part of Solomon's old team. So he's in the game, and it's all about sort of an extended boss fight universe where it is a game where you solve puzzles and defeat enemies and save the world from an ancient threat using the power of, friendship and kindness and togetherness and heroism. But every character has a profoundly different idea of what it means to be a hero. And the conflict is that we're trying to explore morality and a study of heroism in a way that's different, because ethics in video games have not really changed. Moral choice hasn't really changed since a game called Ultima 4, way back in the day, late 90s, I believe. Richard Garriott, the creator of the game, he's a brilliant dude. But he tackled the idea of why be good, right? Why be good in video? Why not murder hobo all over the place? Isn't that more fun? And he realized that it wasn't satisfying to just block players from doing evil things. You had to actively incentivize goodness. And so one of my favorite characters in Boss Fight is Princess Isabindi. Who's
based on a real person, isn't she?
Her look is a combination of, oh my God, I'm blanking on the opera singer's name. Jessie Norman. That's her name. An opera singer named Jessie Norman, and Lizzo. And then the friend of mine who's voicing it. But she is, her idea of goodness, of heroism, is stomping evil. So her idea, boom, problem solved. Right? And obviously everybody's like, what'd you do? Problem solved. He's not going to do it again, is he? But you hit him. He had it coming. Right? And so everybody's hopefully going to have a favorite. And I want to have that experience I had with Dragon Age Origins, where I had my obvious favorites, but I ended up loving everybody at the end. And we've got 3 or 4 characters earmarked for Bobby, but I'm just saying that to tease him. I'm not going to tell him what it is yet. I told him one, but we're not talking about that publicly yet.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
But yeah, we're narrowing in on, we're doing like a little mini game so people can get a sense, and so we can tell a bunch of pop culture jokes that will age poorly. And that's what we're working on now. We just got the combat mostly figured out. That was a challenge because of the pony dialogue and combat for her, making it not boring, but making it not tedious. But she doesn't talk. And so we didn't want to.
She throws poop at people, doesn't she?
She's the alchemist character. So she's soul mom. She sucks the souls of enemies, which creates different powered pony poop. And
you know what TV Tropes calls that?
No.
Dung foo.
Dung foo. Perfect. That was me. Remember I said the Thor giant goats are funny? That was like, let's just whip shit at people. And, my co-lead, Mary Jest, who's far more cultured than I am, goes, okay. And he makes it into this classical music, operetta, amazing thing. But I'm like, poo. But she doesn't talk. She's a mute character. And so we had to figure out how to include her in dialogue as more than sort of the cheap punctuating horse whinny that we did in some of the other stuff. And we finally figured that out through basically dance battles. There are certain ones that if you interact with her in dialogue, she can actually learn a move from another character. So, but that took some meandering. It took us a while to figure out that was going to be a problem. And then when we identified the problem, we had to figure out what to do with the problem. But that's the fun thing of game dev, right? That you don't get in film or you see the train coming more in film and TV. Whereas games, you get to a point, it's like, oh, yeah, right, that feature. What do we do?
Yeah. That is brilliant. We soon have to end, unfortunately. I hate this because we're having such a great chat. I could talk to you all night, and I'm sure Bobby could as well.
Could always come back, right?
Absolutely. Well, geez, we'd love to have you back. I'm hoping Bobby digs me out here because I've only got a few of these either or.
Oh, don't worry, I have a few.
Yeah, so
I'll talk for 20 minutes on each one anyway. You'll be fine.
Richie, I'll let you go first.
Batman, Superman, or Spider-Man?
In what context?
Who's your favorite out of the three?
Oh, fuck. Superman.
Really? Wow.
That was close.
Yeah.
Okay,
I'm trying not to cheat by going option C. I'm not going to Batman the Batman question.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like, who do I look up to more? Definitely Superman.
Yeah.
Who am I more like? Probably Spider-Man.
And Dracula, Frankenstein, or the Wolfman?
Oh, Dracula. That one's easy. I was obsessed with Dracula when I was younger.
Yeah.
We even tried to put on that old terrible stage play that you could license for schools. Yeah, I love Dracula.
I would love to do an adaptation of it one day.
Yeah, me too.
Played Dracula in the old days, didn't he?
Yeah.
I love Lee playing him.
Oh, incredible! Yeah.
Yeah. Cats or dogs?
Cats. That's a tough one.
Yeah.
Border collies can found that, but cats understand me.
Brilliant.
DC or Marvel?
Comics, movies, or games?
I'd go with movies, Bobby.
Yeah, sure.
Marvel. That's easy.
Yeah.
That's really easy. Yeah.
Okay. The lesser of two evils here. Okay, Joss Whedon or Quentin Tarantino?
Fuck you. Tarantino. I knew when you said lesser of evil, I was like, no. Yeah, no, Tarantino for sure.
Okay, and out of the four charmed ones, Prue, Piper, Phoebe, or Paige, who?
Oh my god, this is a tough one.
Please pick my one.
Either Piper or Paige. I'll say Piper because you have Paige.
Yeah, I mean, I think you and Holly Marie Combs would get on very well if you met her in person.
Yeah. I don't know. I always, when I watched Charmed, I always liked Piper. And I tended to like the least known of anything. So it was always, that one nobody noticed. But I really thought there was she definitely was the least famous person going into the show, but it was,
and they didn't want her on because of that.
Yeah. But she was really interesting, and she was the middle kid, which is always sort of fascinating. I'm the oldest, but yeah, she did her job,
And okay, Richie, do you have any?
Yeah, I think I've one more, and this is just gonna go out there. This could be easy, but we mentioned both of them, right? So, Poison Ivy or Harley Quinn?
In what context?
Just in terms of character, and maybe I don't know, maybe in terms of character, maybe, or development of character, or who you kind of more.
I'll take the question of who would I rather write a comic about, and I'll say Poison Ivy because it's just so underdeveloped in recent years. There's so many stories to tell with that character that just haven't been done because no matter what you'd put out, it would be unpopular.
Yeah,
and I am looking to start stuff in that space. I think we need to go back to the time where art challenges and actually asks questions and explores what is instead of what ought to be. And I think with Poison Ivy, there's a lot. I mean, the two of them together are the best, but Poison Ivy has just gotten no love from DC Comics of late. And I think it's time to go back there.
And I think, yeah, we agree that Sadie Sink would be the perfect person to play her in live action.
What a great age up role, yeah? Like she'd just be so like starting her in school, right? As Pamela Isley, Sadie Sink could nail that. So good. Yeah.
I mean, she's old enough to play her as an adult now, because I think she's 21, 22.
Yeah, well, she'd still be a college student. Like I'd put her in college in the movie universe. She could fit there. Yeah. And I always saw Poison Ivy as in the new Batman universe as more of a, Poison Ivy would be her hacker name sort of thing. So she'd take over computer systems and like vines would crawl up the screen and everything like that. She's like ransomwaring things. And so it's this whole almost like a VTuber persona. And then it turns out she's this sort of mousy college student who's being pushed around by life. That's how I'd adapt it to that no esoterica Batman Pattinson universe. That's my pitch. Watch them steal it now. Watch them steal it now. Get no credit. That's okay. That's the showbiz.
Brilliant. Right. I think we're gonna have to end it there because that was some chat, by the way.
Oh well, hey. Did you expect anything less?
I thought it was going to be.
I'm gonna be savoring that question for a while now, Bobby.
Which question?
That Lesser of Evils, Joss Whedon or Tarantino. Like whenever somebody gets me to go, oh fuck you, I will treasure that moment.
That one, Bobby. That was
that you did yourself.
Yeah.
That was taking something you knew about a person and using it as a weapon. I have taught you well, young Skywalker.
I like to call myself the puppet master.
Yeah.
One name for you anyway, Bobby. Definitely. No. Now, I'd like to really thank you, Liana, for coming on. Jeez, you have been an absolute treasure for coming on, and thanks for your time. And Bobby, of course, it's always a pleasure, Bob.
I mean, I think Liana is a bit young for this, but I think it's safe to call her an international treasure by now.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but I'm Canadian, so we're only worth 65 cents on every $1 of international treasure.
Yeah. One more question, Liana. I'm thinking of visiting Canada sometime soon. Would you recommend it to me?
Yeah. What part of Canada? It's a big country. What do you like to do?
I don't know. I've had people go to Calgary and stuff. And Toronto and whatever else, but I haven't really got a specific part of Canada, but my friends have just scattered kind of all around there, and they just they never come back.
I mean, Calgary's very flat. Like Calgary, nothing is more than 25 years old in that city.
Yeah.
So it almost looks like something that's been rendered in AutoCAD. But if you go up to Banff in Alberta, it's beautiful. You see it in a lot of like because of the mountains. And then if you get into BC, Ladysmith, BC, it's on the island, but it's where a lot of shows like Once Upon a Time and Resident Alien are shot.
And the Power Rangers movie from 2017.
And the Power Rangers movie, yeah. And then you get into Toronto, and I mean, we've got a lot of everything.
Yeah.
In Toronto. The issue with Toronto is it's so big that we don't appreciate anything, but we've got a lot of museums. The food, if you're a foodie, Toronto's the place to go. You can get good everything here. If you want more of a picturesque kind of seaside thing, the Maritimes are your go-to. They've got wildfires right now, so I wouldn't recommend going now. But Halifax is amazing. Its summer music festivals are incredible. And then, if you want to get the old, like where all the battles were fought kind of thing, Quebec City is a wonderful kind of picturesque. If you like historic architecture, Quebec City's beautiful. And it doesn't have the snootiness of Montreal. So those are my suggestions. And I mean, our Human Rights Museum is in Winnipeg. And I quite enjoyed that. But Winnipeg's an interesting town and it's super, super small. It's dead middle of the country. And that's why it's there. So
Brilliant.
there's your little travel guide to Canada.
Nice. If
A
so,
travel agent as well.
If
travel
you
agent.
if you like theater, hit Toronto and then go to the Shaw Festival in Niagara on the Lake. It is the best repertory theater I have ever seen. It's the works of George Bernard Shaw and contemporaries. So it's everything from Dickens to Oscar Wilde to Agatha Christie to things like Gypsy. It's a great, great little festival.
Brilliant. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for that. I feel like I'm in Canada already. You've given me
There you go.
risk.
Yeah. Our Shakespeare festival's in Stratford, but that's kind of way out.
Brilliant. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Right. So Liana, once again, I have to thank you for coming on. You've been amazing. Hopefully we might get you back again down the line when I cosplay as Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
It'd be very interesting.
Okay.
Now that's going to turn out. It's been a pleasure sharing my time with these two legends. And as ever, if you want to listen, you can find this podcast on Spotify. And actually, you can listen to Bobby's first episode, actually, which was very heartwarming, which should be down underneath in episode 1. And as ever, just go over to the Instagram page, keep following that for updates and everything else. So that's it from episode 4 of the Box Room Podcast. Again, thanks to Bobby and Liana for your time. And that is it. And Bobby, do you want to hit them with the catchphrase you made up for me there? You could.
Richie, motherfuckers.
Wasn't it unbelievable? I love it. Richie Kaye, motherfucker. That's going to catch on.
Richie Kaye, motherfucker.
Yes, yeah, that's actually very good. So thanks a million, and we'll see you all very soon.
Mm-hmm.